Ever since Kenneth Okonkwo parted ways with Peter Obi, with the excuse that Peter Obi was weak, Peter Obi did not do what MKO Abiola did, declare himself president, and that Peter Obi could not or cannot defend the votes that the people give to him. Ever since that happened, many people have jumped on that narrative to push it. That Peter Obi is a weak leader, he cannot be president of Nigeria, Nigeria needs a tough leader, Nigeria needs a tough leader. Is it weakness for a leader to see billions of naira and decide not to steal it and decide to leave it behind? Is it weakness to refuse the request of your State House of Assembly members to spend public funds lavishly? Is it weakness to refuse to bloat government contracts and reduce cost of governance? Since when is it weakness that you allow rule of law? You don't force your opinion on others. Is it weakness to say, oh, I will not call for violent protest? I will not let innocent lives be lost because of my ambition? Is it weakness that a Peter Obi was able to say, no, I will not buy another SUV when the people are suffering? When we have such a leader as Tinubu, who despite the hardship that is going on in the country, is able to spend 1 billion naira to buy one car. And since May 29, it's all manner of cars that have been bought for the president. All manner of cars. Over 6 or 7 different cars, from BMW to Range Rover to Land Cruiser to Mercedes, just name it. And then you have the latest one, the Escalade. A leader who cannot say, I already have money. Oh, there's already a car. The people are suffering. Let me say no to spending government or public funds lavishly while the people are suffering. Should that not be the weak leader? When we're talking about weakness of leaders, shouldn't we measure it by whether or not the leader is able to resist external forces, to resist the request of external forces, to resist the demands of the enemies of Nigeria? Should that not be how we measure the weakness or the strength of a leader? And in that regard, who should we be calling weak? Should it be Tinubu, Buhari, or should it be Peter Obi? Who is weak? Is it a Tinubu that right from day one served Nigeria on a platter of gold to the IMF and the World Bank just because possibly the IMF and the World Bank has 1 or 2 things against him? And so he lacked the courage to say no to them. We were here when President Obasanjo said that never say no to the World Bank or else they will drag your face on the ground, but never you do their bidding. So who is weak? Is it not a leader that can stand up and say no to these external forces that are pushing agendas, pushing policies that we know are detrimental to our own interests, but yet are not man enough or strong enough to say no to them? Is this not how we measure who is a weak leader or who is a strong leader? We need leaders who can say no to the demand to spend public funds for private gains. We need leaders who will put Nigeria first. We need leaders who will cut down on the cost of governance. We need leaders who will create jobs. We need leaders who will be able to say no to the interests of the IMF and the World Bank. Leaders who will say, this fuel subsidy you're talking about is corruption. There is no subsidy in the first place, so there's nothing to remove. What you are asking me, oh, Mr. IMF and Mr. World Bank, is for me to increase the cost of living for my people, and that will increase their suffering, and so I cannot say yes to it. Is that not the kind of leader we want? In fact, when you consider it, you would even say that a Buhari was even a stronger leader than a Tinubu, because a Buhari was able to say no to the IMF and World Bank for 8 years. In fact, if I recall that interview he had with Al Jazeera, when they kept pressing him, oh, why don't you remove fuel subsidy? He said, my people are poor. We are not producing anything. This is Buhari that does not have the first-class brain of a Tinubu, as he is acclaimed to be. But he knew that removing fuel subsidy was a lie because he said it was a fraud. But what they were actually trying to do was get him to increase the pump price of petrol, to get him to devalue the naira, to get him to privatize. All these are things that the IMF has been pushing Nigerian leaders to do, even though they know that it will make life difficult for Nigerians. And Buhari refused it. And from day one, Tinubu accepted it. Who is the weak one?